This is Mansi. And as everybody know me and I know everyone, so I don't need to give my introduction to you. I have initiated this session with all my authors, my favorite authors, whom I interact with on day-to-day basis, not only about their books, but about different topics that interest us in terms of art or culture. Sometimes we talk about other people's books, sometimes we talk about life and how we can improve our writing and a lot of other things. So all of you guys are my favorite. And I have Jasveer here from Canada, who is, we both are partnering with each other on various projects from India and US and Canada. So I would like you guys to listen to Jasveer also and introduce himself for a minute before you all introduce yourselves to each other. So Jasveer, over to you.
Hello everyone. Good evening. It's morning over here, but good evening everyone because everybody is from India. Mansi and I are logged in from Canada and US where it's morning, 11 o'clock to be precise. I've been an author for a little over 4 years now. I started writing in 2018. I've written a lot of non-fiction, but fiction is what really attracts me. And my upcoming book is going to be a series which is going to be fiction. So that's going to be like my 9th book, and I've also co-authored 2 books. Non-fiction is something that is easy, comes easy for me. I've written my own stories, my own life stories. I've also written stories of other people's lives. I've written a book about a cancer survivor. He's a motivational speaker, and then I've also written a book about a healthcare professional from India. So sort of non-fiction really comes easy, and that's why I wanted to be part of this discussion. I wanted to talk about fiction. How do you create a fictional world? That's what really attracted me. Apart from writing, I'm a training and development professional here in Canada, and I've been here for 2 years, little over 2 years. Before that, of course, I was in India. And Mansi and I have been working for the last 3 years. She has edited my books, and we worked on a couple of other projects as well. So delighted to meet all of you. And thank you for having me, Mansi.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jasveer. And I would like to start with, anybody want to volunteer, introduce themselves first? Anshuman?
Yeah, so I am Anshuman. I have just written a book. The book name is Those Unsaid Words, and ma'am is editing that book. I'm not a professional writer, so it is just my hobby. Professionally, I am a defense personnel. So that's all. Presently, I'm in India, and I'm in MP, the place called Indore. I think when we'll discuss, so things will come slowly.
So tell us about your book also.
Okay, ma'am.
Little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, I got the chance that I was posted in Leh Ladakh area. So I traveled from Manali to Leh. So I generally see books, novel categories, and travel logs are there. So there was a concept that I thought that we should make something that there is a travel log and there is a story behind it. So you mix 2 things, and that was my concept and that I was thinking, and I used that concept and I tried to write something. So this is a book regarding a girl who is traveling from Manali to Leh. She is troubled in this life, married life. So she is taking that path. She is going into that land of Lama and learning many things. So it is some literature type of book, some philosophical type of book, some love story. It's a mix of them. I don't know. So Mansi ma'am would be able to tell better than me.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm editing Anshuman's book. I just edited now. finished the book of, I think, he's written more than 90,000 words. So I told him to reduce the words. At least the book should be at around 70,000. But when I looked at the story, I didn't want to, delete lot of things. Sometimes you don't want to delete things from an author's work because it's so good. It brings out some memories of how the author is writing. It gives you an idea of how much hard work has the author put in to write that scene. So I did not like to delete those kind of scenes, but Anshuman has given a very good description about the place called Leh Ladakh, and I don't know if you guys have gone to that place or not, or visited Leh Ladakh or not ever in your life, but if you haven't, you must, because the way he has described that place, each and every the army post and the camps, and how their lives are when they are on those border areas, and the difficulties of the terrain. Like, it's a very sometimes he is shown as the terrain as very tough, or you cannot get your vehicle through that terrain, and it's rocky, and sometimes landslides are there. It's so nice. It was so nice reading all these things, because we are sitting here in a city, and we are not able to enjoy those things every day. So I really felt like it takes you. Yeah, he said right that it was kind of a travel log mixed with the story, So it kind of took me to that place, and I thought that the next time I visit India, this is gonna be on my bucket list, this place to visit, on my number one list now. So the way he has described it. So whenever we write a travelogue or we describe a place, we describe it so beautifully. It is very important, but it's also tricky in a lot of ways, because how many times can you actually describe a place which is so beautiful? How many times can you actually write in a book that there are good mountains, if they are covered with snow and the grass is green? So we both try that we should describe these kind of same things in different way in every chapter, so that there's some kind of freshness, there's some kind of newness that comes with the describing the landscape. So what Anshuman has done is that he has taken help of a poetic kind of a language, wherein he has described like raindrops. Sometimes, like I can give you an example, wherein a necklace of pearls, or clouds as, I don't know, what do you call it, cotton candy or something. I can't even remember now, but that's how you need to describe in your stories also, when you're describing just the landscape. You can't just say, oh, the grass is so green at this place and the clouds are white. You have to let your imagination go deeper than that how do they look like? So remember when we were kids, we used to, maybe, I don't know, I used to do it. It was a game between me and my cousins sometimes, that we used to make some figures from the clouds sometimes during the sunset. How many of you have done that during your childhood? So that is creativity, yes. Because, this cloud looks like a horse to me, and we used to do it. That's again the same things you have to put it in your writing also. We have to be like a kid when we are writing and describing nature. So well done, Anshuman. And I wish you best of luck for this project, and I hope you win lots of hearts when readers are reading your book, and it goes places. So all the best to you. We'll go back to our next.
Just wanted to ask something, Anshuman sir. Are you still serving, or have you taken your?
I'm still serving. I've completed around 16 years in army. So let's see how much.
Where are you posted currently?
I'm posted in Mau. There is a place called Mau. It is around 25 kilometers from Indore.
It's going to be memorable for me as well as an editor. So thank you for putting across this story. We'll move on to Anulal. Anu, if you can talk about yourself, how you became a writer, and what all books you have written.
Thank you so much, Mansi. First of all, let me start with thanking Mansi profusely for giving me this opportunity, for bringing me together into this company of writers. Because sometimes I heard writers say that writing is a lonely profession, because often we are alone with ourselves, even though we are in the company of characters and we think about stuff. Often we are alone, that's the reality of it. And coming together with people with equal interests or similar interests, that's a relief in fact. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for all the other authors who are here, for being here. And I'm from Kerala, India, which is one of the southern states of India. We speak Malayalam language here, but I write in English. I started writing I think when I was in the 5th standard, but I started publishing in 2012. So far I've written 12 books. My newest book is a book of short stories, which is titled Talasheri Biryani. Talasheri is the name of a small town in Kerala, the northern part of Kerala, where they serve really good biryanis, which is like the hallmark of this particular place. And I have attempted to give that idea, the multicultural sort of thing, and I've tried to bring out that cultural combination in this particular book. Then I have written only one book of non-fiction so far, which is titled Life After the Floods, which was about 2018 mega floods that hit Kerala. So I've written mostly about Kerala, mostly about people here, mostly about the stories that I see around myself. I work as a teacher apart from writing, because so far right now writing doesn't pay the bills. So I have to work, and I work as a teacher, and that helps a lot. But that also squeezes out the time, the energy, and whatever you need to become a writer from you. So at the end of the day, you are like tired and exhausted, and you feel like you want to run away somewhere, but you can't. So that's the tragedy of it. So right now I'm in that position, but the welcome thing is companies like this, moments like this, when you meet people who are equally interested in writing as you are, and books and stories as you are. So that's a welcome happenstance in life. So I'm grateful for that. I mostly write fiction, short stories, short fiction. I have written only one novel, which I didn't have the courage to publish in my own name. So I published it in a different pen name. And recently I have updated it, saying that I have written it on the cover. And I'm not very proud of that, but that is the reality of it. I have written 2 novels, but one hasn't been published yet. It's in the process of getting published, but hasn't published yet. I'm working on another book, but it hasn't completed yet. I'm simultaneously working on a lot of other works. So like sometimes these things get really hectic and I'm unable to complete certain things. So right now I'm in the process of completing a lot of stories and a lot of book projects. Hopefully, in the future things will come out, books will come out, I'm not sure, but that is where I am. And personally speaking, I'm completely like reinventing myself right now at this moment. And probably I'm hoping that in the future I'll be able to write better, with a better perspective, especially because I'm in the company of so many good writers. I can learn a lot of things from you guys. So I'm hopeful. Once again, thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anu, for the enlightenment and being so honest about your work and your personal life. I feel we as writers, we try to give closures to our own lives when we are writing sometimes. I don't know, to be honest with you, in my one of my fiction works, I have written those things which were not related to me in any way during my school life, but I wanted to live those kind of moments. So how do you live those kind of moments in reality when you know you can't go back to your childhood days? The only way is to write a book and give closures. So I feel that way in a lot of ways. And also, I like Anu has written books. He's from Kerala and he's written books based on his hometown. Do you think, it's a question to all of you guys, do you think it is easier for us or for you guys to write about the place where you spend all your life, or where you were born because you feel connected to it? Anybody would like to answer it?
I think, ma'am, it is good because we when we knew we are from that place, it is easy to write. Suppose I have not gone to Delhi, so I can't not say what is Delhi originally. I have seen Delhi's movies only, so I can write only what I have seen in Delhi. But what the people who are living there, they actually felt what is actual Delhi. So I think that's why we write where we had gone.
True. Anybody else has any answer to it?
I think if anybody's, I mean, Mansi knows that I don't read too many books, right? And as an author, that's very strange thing, because the more you read, the better you become as an author. But for me, having a learning disorder, it's very difficult to read a book, right? That's been there since childhood. So it's very difficult for me to concentrate and read. But one of the very few books that I read before I started writing was Chetan Bhagat's book called One Indian Girl, and absolutely said, if you read the book, he's described New York in a way that has actually been there, and then after that he wrote the story. So I think, Sid, you've made a very strong point. If you know the place, if you know the situation, you can certainly describe it in a better way. But for example, I chose that my character visits Nice, which is in France, for one of my fiction books, which is a spy thriller. Now, I've never been to Nice, I've never been to France, right? So that's the second way, and that's been my experience. Even if you've not been, if your research is impeccable, for example, if armed forces are involved in my book, and I have a friend like Anshuman, and I go to her, I've never worked in armed forces. Can you tell me about the ranks? Can you tell me about the procedure? So that's another way. And I think herein research comes really handy for you. If you've not been to any place, if you've not seen such a situation, but if you can do your research, primary and secondary, if you can't find research online, then do your own research. Find out means through which you can get those procedures right. If it's CBI that you're talking about, can you get the procedure right? If you're talking about a place like Leh Ladakh and you're depicting a story of Indian Army over there, can you find an armed forces personnel and speak with them? You were posted over there. Can you explain me? So I think it works both ways. Either you go to that place and you've experienced it yourself, or you do your research and then finally do it. And I want your views for fiction stories, because how do you create a fiction world is what I'm really keen on hearing your thoughts about. But yeah, that's what I think, Mansi.
Yeah, no, nice point.
I think just
one more. So what I feel that if you really are a writer, then you will be able to write anything. Like you have not visited, I have never visited the ocean, I'm writing about ocean, okay? If I'm a true writer, I can imagine things. So I should write in such a way that people will not come to know that I have never visited ocean. Once you are able to do that, then you become a true writer. That is my take. But yes, it helps. If you have visited some place and you are writing about that place, yes, it helps. Like, ma'am, I have written about London. There is a scene in the story about London. Okay, so it is about that university, and it is talking about some restaurant or something. Okay, So like Jasveer sir was mentioning. So I looked on a Google map. Okay, this university and this hall. How much kilometer this restaurant is from that place. So I'm making that scene that a boy is moving from this place to that place. How much time it takes. So you have to do that research.
Exactly. I was about to say that Google Maps is your friend. Google Street View is wherein you can actually see the building. If you type an address, you can actually see what is around you. So that's one way, right? And we all became an author in an era wherein technology is at its peak, right? So back in the old days, if my dad had to look for something, he would have to open a big fat encyclopedia and check the facts over there, right? So, and for different subjects, there were different encyclopedia. For geography, it was different. If you are researching for a city, then there was a different encyclopedia. If you are researching about a monument, then there is a different encyclopedia. But now, it's just a few words in Google and you get the information.
True.
So, I think, yeah, we have technology on our side. We can do our research.
Anyway, so yeah, quickly, on the same point, I have edited Siddharth's novel also, and he's from Kolkata, right, Siddharth?
No, ma'am, Chandapur.
Okay, yeah, but he's written about the what do you call that festival in Kolkata?
Durga Puja.
Yeah, Durga Puja. And so how you have done that, I don't know. I mean, if you haven't lived there.
I haven't lived there, but I am a Bengali, and my hometown is in MP. So in my home, there used to be a huge festival every year. It's been 75 years. The festival is ongoing, and my family is having a very important part in that. I mean, from day one, the festival starts. My family is the main caretaker of that festival. Even the temple is in our custody. So whole year we are caretaking the temples. Oh. That's why it was easy for me. And as a Bengali, I have emotional attachment to that festival. That's why I didn't so well for that.
Beautifully you have described in your book, really beautifully. You get to the streets of Kolkata and you can just imagine all those festivities through your book. So well done. And before we log off, I can see that Mr. Shatrujit Nath has also joined in. He's our guest author tonight. So we'll welcome him. Before that, we would like to hear from our youngest author here, Sahil, who is sitting quietly. So we would like to hear about you and what are you writing, Sahil? Everybody wants to listen to you.
Good evening and good morning to Inspiri sir and Mansi ma'am. I am currently in second year and I feel like I have these experienced people in front of me, and I don't know, but I have been writing poems since a year now. I am writing a book and it's still a bit left to get finished, but yeah. And Mansi ma'am has been very supportive throughout the journey. Like, she helped me through her magazines, she gave me the exposure.
Yeah, sure, always there for my authors. And we would like to welcome Mr. Shatrujit Nath. He's our guest author tonight. Welcome, Mr. Shatrujit Nath. Please introduce yourself to everyone here. Everybody's eager to hear from you.
Yeah, hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, thanks Mansi for kind of getting me on board out here. I've been kind of lurking in the background and listening to what everyone has to say, and yeah, it's always fun to be part of sessions where people are discussing story and ideas and ideation concepts, stuff like that. So it's always fascinating because there are so many different things that so many different perspectives and so many new things one learns, and just to kind of, Sahil, you just said that you're very new to this, and there are lots of experienced authors around you and all that. Well, I completely agree with that. Please also understand that it doesn't matter however experienced we all are, when we start writing a new novel, it's always on a blank page. It doesn't matter whether you're Sachin Tendulkar or you're Virat Kohli. When you come into bat, you are at zero. Your score is zero. You have to build the next 100. It doesn't matter. Reputation doesn't matter. You have to do it all over again. Every story you write is a new challenge. You might fail, you might succeed. So don't be intimidated by people around you. Just be yourself and just have fun. Write and have fun. That's all I've got to say. So so I've written 6 books so far. So my first book was the Karachi Deception, and we were talking about basing our stories in environments and worlds that we are familiar with. And I, of course, have never been to Karachi in my life, obviously. But my first book was a spy thriller, which was based. 90% of the book 80% of the book happens in Pakistan, of which 40% is in Karachi, and the remaining 40% is in Gwadar, which is, it's a small port town in the western part of Pakistan. So so that was my first book, and then I wrote a 4-book. You can't call it a trilogy. It's a quartet, which was called the Vikramaditya Veergatha series. That was epic fantasy, based on Hindu mythology. And the current series that I'm writing, the first book is out. It's called the series is called Warlord of Ayodhya, and it's essentially the story of what happens in Ayodhya during the 14 years of Lord Rama's exile. And the whole story is actually the story of Bharat and Shatrugna. So the Ramayana is about Ram and Lakshman, and the Warlord of Ayodhya is about Shatrugna and Bharat, and the same 14 years story. So it's a 3-book series, and the first book came out about 6 months ago. I am in the midst of writing the second, and hopefully that will come out around middle of next year. And then I have to write the third one, and so that's what I do.
Great to hear that. And I wanted to know that because I love your book covers, Mr. Nath, and I don't know who designs them, but they're all awesome, I must say. I once showed it to you, Jasvi. Remember, you were looking for a designer for your cover. I said, look at this cover. Look at how, there was an image of maybe it's Rama with a bow and an arrow. And
I remember.
So perfect. So we would like to hear about who design your covers and how do you come up with such fantastic covers?
So actually, the covers it's usually a collaborative process. I have most of my covers are designed by my friend Paul Thomas, who is we used to work together in advertising 20 years ago, and Paul is a great art guy. He's a great designer. So Paul and I usually work on my covers. We kind of I send him out a brief and I tell him, this is what the genre is, this is what the characters are. And then, usually it takes almost about 3 months for us to get a cover right. Despite the fact that Paul and I work very well, there's still a lot of effort that goes into kind of, getting the visual right, getting the kind of, the colors and all of that kind of stuff. Because, there are ideas at multiple levels. So most of them are designed by Paul, and I'm very happy with what he does. So far, it's been a great experience working with Paul, and I think it always helps that if you work with a designer, even if it's the designer who's been by your publisher's designer, if you're able to work with the designer very closely, share your ideas, even if those ideas don't necessarily come out the way you want it, the designer gets to know what is important in the story. What is it that's important in the story for you as an author, and if the designer is able to bring that out into the cover, I think half the battle is won. So I think that's what we do.
True. No, I agree totally with that. And here, Mr. Nath, here everybody is written books, starting from Jasvi. Anu has written, I think, 7 books. Anu, you've written. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
12 books. 12. Sorry.
Books.
Wow.
Nice. And everybody gets such a nice flavor of the cities that they belong to. And Sahil is about to write a book, so he's learning a lot, and I'm helping him out in whatever way I can. Anshuman, he's served in the army. He's still serving, right? And he has written one book about his journeys about Leh and Ladakh, and Siddharth, and Atul has written about spiritual awakening. So we all want to know that how difficult was it to get a publisher for the first time?
So I don't think there is one single answer for this, because it also depends on how fortunate an author is whether he or she already knows. So sometimes what happens is that the author is actually directly recommended to a publisher by an existing author of the publisher. So, for example, sometimes what happens is that if I come across somebody sends me a mail and says that, look, I've got a book in this kind of genre. So what I do is I just kind of connect my publisher to that author, and then it's up to between the author and the publisher whether it works out, doesn't work out. So sometimes you kind of luck it out that way, which is good. But usually what happens, and this is where we a lot of disheartenment happens with the this entire pitching process. So even when I wrote the Karachi Deception, I wrote that in 2011, 2012, and my first reaction was obviously to kind of because you go to every publisher's website and they have a link that says submit your manuscript. Now this is unfortunately this is very deceptive, because it's not deceptive. It's not to say that that link doesn't work. It's just to say that there are so many people submitting manuscripts out there, and I think right now in India we're at a stage where probably we have more authors than we have readers. There are just so many authors around, and there are so few readers. If you submit your manuscript, it's going to go into a slush pile. I don't even know if anyone is ever going to look at that manuscript, because there are just so many manuscripts to look at. So you might turn around and say, okay, I have a great, 2-page pitch note, all of that. But my personal opinion on this is that, it's a shot in the dark. It might work, it might not work. I think a better idea would be if you have a good pitch note ready. And I'll just tell you what a pitch note is. It's probably you guys already know about it, and you don't need me to tell, share any of this with you. But basically, your whole story, kind of concised into say 2 pages. Ideally 1 page, but maybe 2 pages. 2 pages of your story with the right kind of hooks and beats and all those emotional moments, those which cue in the drama, the suspense, whatever is there inherent to your story. So that's it, kind of a 2-pager. Most literary agents ask for 3 sample chapters, and I'll come to why. And it's equally true even for publishers. They ask for 3 sample chapters. It's very easy to pick the 3 best chapters that we have. And sometimes, the 3 best chapters that we have are chapter number 8, 9, and 10, or 8, 14, and 16. But no, do come what may, pick the first 3 chapters, because that is the first 3 chapters that the reader is going to read anyway. So it doesn't matter if your best chapter is the 15th chapter, the reader is still going to start at chapter 1, which means the reader is going to evaluate your first chapter and then decide whether he or she wants to stick with your book. So your first chapter has to work that way. So chapter 1, 2, and 3, the first 3 sample chapters. What I would recommend is find a literary agent. There are lots of literary agents that have come up in India. It's also a very tricky sort of a game, because there is money involved out there. Some literary agents ask money upfront, which I think is totally wrong, because the job of a literary agent is to place your book with a publisher and then make sure that he makes his money out of a commission of what the author makes. He should not be charging the author to place the book somewhere. That's my opinion. But what I would recommend is approach a literary agent. There are lots of, you just need to type in Indian literary agents in India, and Google will give you probably 20, 30 names. When I was searching, there were probably about 9 or 10 names. Today it's increased. Send out mails to these people. Send out maybe the 3-page. Maybe initially don't send them the 3 sample chapters. Just send them an introductory mail with just the synopsis, just to see whether they're interested. They're excited. If they're excited about it, you automatically know that okay, I like this synopsis. Send me the 3 sample chapters. It's a nicer way rather than dumping those 3 sample chapters and then you don't know whether they've read it, they've not read it. You send a 2-pager, anyone would read a 2-pager, right? It's just so simple. So it gives you another moment to interact with the literary agent, and hopefully take the conversation forward. So my experience with literary agents was, and I've had a literary agent since my first book, Karachi Deception. I've had the same literary agent who represents me even today, Kanishka Gupta, who's based out of Delhi, writer's side. So I sent Kanishka a mail with my synopsis, And he immediately, I think within about 15 minutes, he said that send me the 3 sample chapters. And I sent him the 3 sample chapters. And I think 2 hours later, he called me and said, do you have the full manuscript ready? Now, this is a very important thing to remember. I said, yes, I did. And I did have my full manuscript ready. So he said, send that across. I sent it across to him immediately. Why this is important is that sending 3 sample chapters, when you send it and the literary agent says, do you have the whole book ready? And you say, no, the book is not ready yet. The literary agent feels disappointed because he's been excited by the sample chapters. He thinks this is a great opportunity to take this idea and pitch it to a publisher. But what happens is if the manuscript is not ready, especially if someone is just starting out, you're an author who's just kind of getting into the game. It's important for you to have the manuscript ready so that when the literary agent says, send me the manuscript, you send it across. Bang, it goes to him. He then sends it bang immediately to the publisher, a potential publisher, whom he can pitch it to. So I think it's kind of important to do these things. Engage with literary agents. There's another reason why literary agents are important. So assume I'm a publisher. Okay. Now what happens is that probably Jasveer or Anshuman, somebody sends me a mail. Somebody sends me a proposal. And let's assume that they've sent both spy stories. Okay. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, I already have, in my commissioned list, I've already got 6 spy stories. Now, this is already commissioned by me. So I am less excited about looking at a spy story at this point in time because I've already got 6. I don't want any more spy stories at this stage. Now, the problem is that Jasveer and Anshuman don't know this. So they send it to me and I reject it, saying mereko nahi karna. Now, Anshuman and Jasveer are going to be disappointed. Obviously, right? When a publisher says no, you are disappointed. What a literary agent does is that a literary agent is in touch with all the 8, 10, 15 publishers. He knows what is the publisher's slate looking like, what is the pipeline like. He's got all that information. So a literary agent will say there is no point in sending a spy story to Shatrujit Naik because Shatrujit Publishing House is already working on 6 spy stories. He's not interested in any more spy stories. So what will happen is that Jasveer and Anshuman's manuscripts will not come to me. Instead, they might go to Mansi, who the literary agent knows that she's actively looking for spy stories. Now, that's something that Anshuman and Jasveer do not know. A literary agent knows that. So I think that's why it's kind of important to work with literary agents. They will also, a lot of times, literary agents will also tell you to change the pitch. They'll tell you, this is what your story is, rewrite the pitch. Your pitch is not exciting enough. Your story is very exciting, but your pitch is not exciting. So rewrite these two pages, put in all these elements, whatever it is, I don't know what it will be, but put that in so that the pitch becomes more attractive to the publisher. So, and I think a lot of the time this is important because the literary agent knows people at the publishing end. He knows what buttons to press to impress whom. Now, you and me sitting out here don't know that. That's why I think it's important to engage with literary agents. I would always recommend, please do that.
Yeah. Anybody has a question? That was very, very helpful for me, at least. Even now. Anybody wants to ask any question to Mr. Shatrujit Naik? Any doubts? Anything? Okay, so we are cool here. Good points, Mr. Shatrujit Naik. It's very important to get a literary agent and to have patience at least, because sometimes I get authors who do not have patience and they've written a book and they want to just get it published in like in one go, which is not possible. When I wrote a book 8 years ago, got published last year. Because I was finding for the right opportunity to publish it. Maybe I thought that I could re-edit again and again. I can show it to a lot of people. So we should take that kind of time for our books because we've done so much of hard work in terms of penning down our thoughts on paper. And then when I gave it to a literary agent, he took another 2 years. So I was very patient. You have to be a little bit of collaborative with these people also because they get so many manuscripts and they might forget you. So you have to keep up with keep reminding them, but not, you have to be a little tricky. It's a very tricky part to get your script, to publisher, nice publisher, and definitely you can be honest. I was very honest with my agent that I do not need these publishers. To be honest with you, I told him from the very beginning that don't give me these publishers that you give to everyone. Just I want something else, somebody different. So it took time. So everybody has to take time for your book like you have taken. So very good points. I learned a lot from the last point here.
I'm sorry, Mansi, I couldn't unmute, but I wanted to say, Shatrujit ji, thank you so much. That was wonderful insights. When Mansi asked if anybody has any questions, I was not able to unmute myself. My system was stuck. The points that he shared are quite relevant, and look at it from the business point of view. Me and Mansi, we go through a lot of manuscripts, but we have to pick and choose because we are very small. I won't call me a publisher, but then we are a very small enterprise, and it's either me or Mansi who are working on the manuscripts, right? So we've got to be very we've got to be very choosy when it comes to that. But the author does not know about that. And a point that he made that is actually quite relevant for young authors like Sahil and Sahil Bravo. When I was in graduation, I was lost as to what I was supposed to do after graduation. But you figured that part out in the second year itself. Don't get intimidated by anybody. If you speak to an author and he says that he's published 12 books, doesn't matter, right? It's art, what we are doing, and it's a baby that you have. The book is your baby, right? And it's yours. Doesn't matter if anybody's got 12, 13 or 20 books published. Your one book could probably be the best of all. So don't worry about it, and I'm glad that you figured that out. Don't worry about the gray hair that everybody has over here. So you have the benefit of young age, and I think your mind is very creative. But remember, patience is the key. It's with any art that we talk about. Could be painting, could be music, could be dance, could be acting, could be anything. It's art, right? And everybody has got their own opinion. So it's your baby, right? You love the painting as a parent. You appreciate the art. But if anybody else looks at your baby's painting, he'll say, "Kya line mari hui hai yaar isme?" But as a parent, you appreciate, right? You think it's art. Not everybody is going to appreciate it. Always remember that. Everybody is going to have their own opinion because it's public forum, and anybody can give an opinion about your book before publishing or after publishing. It's their right. Let's face it, right? When you decide to become an author, you're going into public forum. So don't be scared about the reviews. Don't be scared about the pre-reviews, pre-book. When you do beta reading, you must do beta reading all the time. Give it to your friends, give it to your families, give it to authors that you know. Get the opinion even before you publish it. That also gives you very good insights into improving the story. But the bottom line is, you've got to have a lot of patience. And like Mansi said, it took her 2 years to get the book published. That's the reality in publishing field. Too many authors and too less readers. That's the biggest problem, unfortunately. With technology, now you've got, let's say, I can't give you the exact words, but I think 1,000 to 800. You have 200 more authors compared to, 800 readers. So that's just an example. Right? But keep at it, and I like what Satul just said. Just get a literary agent, and there are plenty of literary agents in India and elsewhere. All you need to do is just make contact. Find out ways how you can do that, and I'm sure it's going to work for you guys.
And I had a question with Shatrujit Naji, that what should be the ideal word limit for a fiction book?
Okay, I think this is going to be a fun answer because when I wrote Karachi Deception, as I said, that was my first book. I wrote it in 2011 and 12. I started writing in 2010, but by the time I finished it was 2012 for lots of reasons. So you must remember, as I said, the Karachi Deception is a spy thriller. So it's a thriller. My initial word count because I'd never written a novel in my life. My word count was 1,56,000 words. 1,56,000 words. And what Jasveer just now said is, send it out to beta readers. So I sent it out to a lot of my friends who are readers, and I think I'll come to the beta readers, how to pick up your beta readers. That's a different thing I'll come back to in a little while. I think that's a very important factor that we must consider. Anyway, I sent this out to, I think, about 8 or 10 people. And the feedback that came back, everyone said one thing. They said a lot of good things, but everyone said one thing. Your book is very long. So I had like, okay, my book is long, but it's working, right? Yeah, but it's long. And I didn't get it for a long time. What do you mean? You like it, so why is it long? How is it a problem? What I later realized is that the ideal length for a thriller, ideal, and I know there are exceptions to the rule. You will always find exceptions to every rule. The ideal length for a thriller is between 70 to 80,000 words. You should not ideally have more than 70 to 80,000. That's the broad yardstick. Particularly true about young, upcoming, first-time authors. Okay, tomorrow a James Patterson or a Ken Follett he could write 5,000 word books. It doesn't matter, people to pick it up because he's Ken Follett, right? But you would not pick up a Shatrujit Nar because he's written 1,56,000 words because nobody's heard of him, right? So I realized that my word count had to be between 75 and 80,000 words. I brought my word count down from 1,56,000 words down to 1,01,000 words. That's the most I could do. So I actually lost 55,000 words. In the process, we lost a lot of stuff which I thought was good, but it doesn't matter because it was just long. It was just pointless for the reader. It was important for me, but not important for the reader. Finally the publisher picked it up. The editor was able to knock off another 11,000 words. We finally brought it down to 89,000 words, and now the Karachi Deception, which is available in the market, is at 89,000 words, which is still, technically speaking, about 9,000 words larger than what a classic thriller should be. So my point out here is that this is a very important question to remember, because if I had sent that manuscript out to a publisher, and the publisher looked at the word count and said 1,56,000 words, probably that's it. That is where the story would have ended. It would have gone into the trash can, recycle bin, whatever you might call it, and that's the end of the story. No Shatrujit Nar, no Karachi Deception, nothing. I think what is important is that every genre has its sweet spot. So for example, if you're writing romance, I think ideally is between 45 to 55,000 words. That's a nice sweet spot for romance. For a good thriller, it's, as I said, it can be anywhere between 70 to 90. If you're writing a pacey political thriller, spy thriller, those tend to be slightly shorter. If you're writing, for example, psychological horror, things like, for example, Gone Girl and stuff like that, that can kind of push 1 lakh. If you're writing fantasy, you can go to 1,25,000, 1,30,000. It doesn't matter. Fantasy and science fiction are two genres that allow you to invest more in words because you are into world building, and world building is the key to fantasy and science fiction. Same about mythology as well. So, for example, the Vikramaditya Veergatha series, my first book was 1,06,000 words. The second book in the series was 1,14,000 words. The third was 1,21,000 words. The fourth was 1,51,000 words. But that's okay because the series is growing, and as you write each book in the series, you add on readers, and that's okay. So that's absolutely fine. Mythology, fantasy, historical, you could push 1,10,000, 1,20,000 because again, it's all about world building. Like if you're going to set up your story is about the Chola Empire or your story is about the Mauryan Empire, you've got to create the Mauryan Empire for the reader, and that involves words. So these are genres. So these are broad yardsticks. Not to say that you can't write a romance, which is, I think, there are romances which go to 1 lakh plus. There are thrillers that come down to 50,000 words. It doesn't matter. But I think it's important to remember these word counts. Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. It's an eye-opener for me as well.
Yeah,
My eyes just opened. My third eye just opened.
No, honestly, I would never write a thriller. Today, where I sit, if my next book were to be a thriller, I would never dream of it crossing, 1 lakh. I would never dream of it. I would try and keep it between 80 and 90, but anything more than that, I would probably try and figure out how do I make it 1,20,000 and make it into 2 books, rather than lump it all together. I don't know. These are all. But I know the fact. So there are also issues involved with costing. The price of the book is determined by the length of your word count, and thrillers by and large are fast reads. They sell well at airports. So if you want to if your book is a thriller, you want it to sell at an airport or at a railway station. Now what happens is that for that you have to get it at the right price point. It doesn't matter. You might be flying business class, but at the end of the day at the airport you want to pay only that much for a thriller. You don't want to pay more than that for a thriller. And that's just the nature of the business. You'd be willing to pay more for fantasy, for example, but fantasies are not things that actually sell well at airports. So there are lots of factors that come into play. We as authors don't realize that when we sit with publishers and they tell you, why they have to price it at so and so price point, and then you realize, oh my God, that's what it is. So, for example, one of the reasons why my books are a little bit more expensive is because of my books tend to have a larger word count. As I said, my last book was the first book in the Bharat series was, I think, 1,03,000 words, and it's just going to go bigger and bigger and bigger. That has cost implications, but that's okay. As I said, mythology, fantasy, it's fine. Thrillers, not so good. Romance, not so good. These are quick consumption things, so the shorter, the better.
Yeah. And especially for a reader is picking up mythology, that means he wants to read that. He's not picking up to, maybe go for a 2 hours flight and he wants to pick up. He is interested in that genre. That's why he's picking up. So he will read even 1 lakh words.
No, I think even with thrillers, I think people who pick up thrillers, it's not that they find that. So people who love thrillers, it's not that they find thrillers frivolous. It's just that they might pick up those larger thrillers for a different sort of consumption. Maybe that's what they spend, their evenings at home or their weekends reading. Maybe they might actually end up reading a Ken Follett or a James Patterson, which is a 10,000 words. They might do that over a weekend, but probably not over a flight, as you rightly said, 2-hour flight. That's something that they would want to consume sooner. So I think it's completely determined by, what is that gratification that they are looking for. Every reader is looking for a gratification and at different points in time. So, for example, I, as a viewer of movies, I can be entertained by Dabangg. I can be entertained by whatever a great classic movie like, I don't know, whatever it is, some great classic by some Oscar-winning classic. It's what do I want to be entertained by at this moment? If I'm looking for a quick, fun entertainment thing, I might watch a Dabangg or a Jeepers Creepers or something like that. If I want something more serious, I would watch probably, whatever it is, Great Gatsby or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think it's just horses for courses sort of thing.
True.
Sorry.
Very, very true. Yeah. Okay.
Just
One thing, ma'am. So from this, I realized that I have to reduce the number of word count in my book, but I don't know where to reduce it from. So I have given you an option that you may reduce it. I am open to that, but somehow I don't feel there is some redundancy in that part. Ma'am, you can again comment on that and you can see on that.
Anshuman, one very quick thing. If you are able to reduce something, that is the best thing. And if an author is able to reduce something, it is the greatest achievement because you have been able to knock off something that's dear to you. This calls for a degree of objectivity which is very hard to achieve. But if you are able to do it, that first cut, if you are able to even remove 5,000 words, let's suppose your target is to remove 15,000 words, even if you are able to remove only 5,000, and whoever your editor is has to remove the remaining 10,000, that's okay. You have applied a degree of objectivity to your own writing, which I think in the long term is going to stand you in very good stead.
True.
I think it's very important that we have to learn how to kill ourselves and what is dear to us. We have to put ourselves in our reader's shoes and say, is this really important for the reader? Does the reader even care about this? And 9 out of 10 times you'll figure out that a lot of stuff that we think is precious is totally immaterial to readers. Reader doesn't care about it. It's not important to the story. It's nice. It's good information. It's all very nice. But does it take the plot forward? Does it build character? No. Remove it. It's as simple as that. So if you can exercise that first cut, it's liberating because it also tells you, as I said, it builds objectivity. The next time you write, you have already learned how to remove redundancies at an early stage. It's just something that it's also helped that, because I was an editor, I have been an editor at the Economic Times and all of that. I know, but it really helps if you can do it yourself. I just think so.
Yeah,
No,
true.
no,
I-
absolutely.
By
Yeah, that's a very important point because
Earlier it
I'll
was
tell you what,
like,
it's because of
90
human nature. Human nature.
Earlier,
If you can
this
do it
book was
yourself,
around
it's
90.
wonderful. If somebody else tells you to do it, you're not going to like it.
Sahil, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I have been so overwhelmed by the whole experience. I couldn't speak a word. So, Jaspreet sir, thank you for the kind words. I have been scared of publishing my book and just sending out the works. And I just had a question to Shatrujit sir. Did you have any fear before sending out your work for the publishing? Like any last minute thoughts or fears about it not getting work or not even getting published or anything like that?
Fear is a constant. For me, fear is a constant. I am afraid of sending my book. I'm afraid of writing my book because I'm afraid that it will not be as good as, in my own head, it is not going to be as good as my previous book. I'm afraid of writing. I'm afraid of myself and my previous effort. I'm afraid after having written it of sharing it with my wife because I'm afraid that the one person I love and who loves me is going to judge me and say, oh, this guy has lost it. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of sending it to my agent. I'm afraid of sending it to a publisher. I'm afraid of, after everything is done, the book is out in the market, I'm afraid because I don't know how readers are going to react to it. Are they going to like it? Are they going to hate it? So fear is a constant that we are in. The only reason you have set out in this endeavor is because you want to see it's your comfort zone. The reason why you have become a writer is because you have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to tell a story which nobody has heard before. It might be a horrible story. It might be a great story. Don't worry. There will always be, every book has a reader and every reader has a book. Your story will find readers. The most liberating thing for me is that when I also get negative reviews. Every author is bound to get negative reviews. What I do is I go to Goodreads and I go to Game of Thrones. Okay, I look at Game of Thrones, and this is an exercise I tell a lot of people to do. You go to the Goodreads page, go to Game of Thrones, and I don't know if it's still the topmost review, but the top review is a 1-star review of Game of Thrones, where the guy has ripped apart the book. He has hated it. And there are so many people who have loved the review. The review is also very funny. He's written it very well. It's a very well written review, but he positively hates it. And there are so many people who agree with him, which is why it is the top rated review on Goodreads. Does it matter? No. Game of Thrones is a global hit. It doesn't matter. One person hating you is of no relevance. 1,000 people hating you is of no relevance. Because there will be another 1,000 people who will love you. Yes, it feels bad. I had somebody wrote, somebody on Amazon, the worst review I've ever had is a 1-line review for the Karachi Deception. It was a 1 word. It just said trash. It just said trash. It was like a slap on the face. Nothing else. But what do? You can't fight it. You can't fight it. So what you do is you take solace in the good reviews. Because the good reviews say, wow, I can't believe this is such a fantastic book. Why isn't this an even bigger hit than it is? Why isn't this on the bestsellers list? Why didn't I discover this author 10 years ago? You will have those kind of reviews also. So you're bound to, as Jasveer said, it's a public forum. You put yourself out in public, you're going to get bouquets, you're going to get brickbats. People will throw stones at you, they'll throw garlands at you. You will get both. So don't worry, don't be afraid. You have written it, no. What is the worst thing that will happen? People say, I didn't like it. So, okay, didn't like it, then like it, never mind. You will feel bad, but move on. There will be 10 people who like it also. That's it.
Very, very valid point. And here we come to the end of our session. And I forgot because Atul Tyagi got disconnected in the beginning and he did not get a chance to introduce himself to the group. So please, can you just give a small introduction about yourself so that next time people know you when we join in? You have 8 minutes left. Come on, Atul. Go ahead.
So thank you, Mansi, for giving me the opportunity. This is the second time you're inviting me, so I'm extremely honored. And my name is Atul Tyagi, and I hail from Dehradun. Dehradun is the capital city of Uttarakhand, so it's basically located at the foothills of Himalayas. And I completed my engineering in electronics and communication, and then after that, I started working for about 20 to 25 months in a corporate company, and actually sensed how the MSME, that is the micro, small, medium enterprises, works. And this was the time where when many of the unusual incidences started happening in my life. And so it actually forced me to you can say, come up with a book which I have just written by name Journey of an Ignorant Guide Toward Mystical and Cultural Dimensions of Life. It is available on Amazon worldwide. And anybody who is interested in knowing the self, or anybody who thinks that there should be a common denominating factor, such as just a curiosity to know the things which are beyond. So I have amalgamated those kind of incidences in not only in terms of the spiritual aspects of it, but also the political and the societal aspects of it. So it will be a worth of your money and your time. So do explore that. That's it. That's what I want to conclude.
Sure. Good job done, Atul, in writing.
Thank you.
I edited your book and I loved it with all the aspects, the purity in your work, the spirituality that you have found out or discovered in your life, the wisdom you've written about how about Shiva and the third eye and pranas and a lot of other things which I didn't know. So it's always a learning to read these kind of books. Definitely. Anybody has any last thoughts before we wind up? Anything anybody wants to say? Yeah, open.
I just wanted to ask a question to Shuddhi sir, that how he actually discovered him being a writer. It was whether it was an organic process or it was a mechanical process. I just wanted to ask him.
Yeah, I think this is also an important one because to be very honest with you, you ask a lot of authors, and they would have most authors have kind of started writing at a fairly early age in some form or the other. Not me. So I have written nothing of any consequence for the first 20 years of my life. I wrote nothing. My mother, she wanted me to write. Obviously, your parents always want you to write and draw and paint and do all the best things in life. But I never did any of that. But I think what happened was that when I was in college, I kind of discovered, I used to write, participate in debates and essay writing competitions and stuff like that. And that's when I realized that, this is something that I'm probably good at. I also had the help of a couple of good mentors who were good writers, who kind of, they saw the talent in me, and they kind of said that, why don't you do this? I've been actually writing for a very long time. So before writing books, I was in advertising for about 4 or 5 years. So that's where I really started writing as a profession, where it would, kind of pay me. And then I was a business journalist for about 10 and a half, 11 years. And that was also something which was, which helped me hone my writing skills, my storytelling skills, my editing skills, all of that. So yes, it was not something that came to me naturally. But it's something that I acquired over a period of time. And now I write novels, I write web shows, I write movies, all of that kind of stuff. So that's what I do. So now I write full time. That's what pays the bills. So yeah, it's.
Oh, so you're writing full time? I mean, you don't
Yes.
don't do any job or anything, because the writing
no,
books have.
No. That is my job. I write commission projects for movies and shows and things like that. And in my spare time, I write my books. So that's what I do. So it's not only my books. I also write other stuff. So that's what I do.
Nice, so impressive. Good to know you. Good, I invited you, and we could know more of you. Thank you for
Thanks.
joining in, and thank you
Thanks for-
everyone for joining in today.
Right.
We're going to definitely have another session and more participants. But thank you so much for everyone. Thank you, Jasveer, for organizing this Zoom call, and all the authors, and Mr. Shatrajit Nath for taking out time for us small authors and editors. And
No,
we learn
as
so
I said-
much from you.
No, as I said, there are no small authors, there are no large authors. There are only authors who tell stories and authors who don't tell stories. Authors who tell stories are those who write them, and those who don't are just keep writing them in their heads. Don't be that. Put them down on paper. That's it.
And don't go for bad reviews. Read the good reviews as well, just to keep you
Correct.
motivated. That's a very good point. All right, thank you so much. You all have a great day and great night. Good night, everyone. And we shall meet again with more thoughts. And here, Mansi Narula Kashyap signing off. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all
Thank
of
you,
you.
sir.
God bless.
Take care,
Bye.
everyone. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.